Welcome everyone to the IRC Season 5 pre-season testing for Tier 1 right at Barcelona de Catalunya. Here with me is Leo Rusty Nish as a co-commentator and Electric who is streaming this whole 90 minutes of practice session. So guys, say hello boys, say hello.
Hello.
Hello everyone.
So yeah, as we are now doing, this is our first ever preseason testing we are doing for our community and for the league in particular. So what do you guys expect from this preseason testing? Do you Nish?
Well,
So
Yeah, Nish,
it's a
continue.
new season, it's a new game. So I'm pretty sure all of these drivers have already put in hours in their private testing sessions. But for us as a community, for the viewers, it'll be the first time we're going to see these drivers, the race pace on the F1 2020 game. So we can get an insight into how closely the grid is going to be packed across the season. We've got a few drivers. We've got the top three from tier two graduating into tier one this season. So there's a lot to prove for drivers such as RB, Tanish, Not So Masoom. And at the same time, the drivers on top of tier one like Marinello, Gripe SD, and General Pepe will want to keep their crown. So we'll get an insight into how their pace tests against these lads. So that'll be really interesting to see that.
How about you, Electric? What do you think about the preseason testing? How is it gonna go?
I do think it in the same way because I feel like now it'll be the good time for everyone to see where they stack up against each other. So, yeah, I hope the grid is going to be competitive this year because yeah.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the Tier 1 season this time in Season 5. And we have chosen Barcelona de Catalunya as our benchmark for pre-season testing because in real life, this is a benchmark in real life as well. So, and plus, this track has many high-speed corners, low-speed corners, and two straights, one in start finish and one in the back straight, both having DRS. So yeah, there's a lot of things to be tested over here. Mainly, they would want to see the tire wear because in this new game, the grips have quietly increased a lot, and the people are now like having problems dealing with the tire wear. So this is the good time for them to like judge on how the tires are supposed to be maintained, how the pace is supposed to be, how consistent you have to be, what the pit windows for like let's say they're taking in the Spain, but for next race, what are they going to do for it? So yeah, let's just see what in full for us.
Absolutely, it's a very good track to test on, but surprisingly, the conditions are wet currently, so that's going to put some drivers off because I'm not sure if all of them are ready with a wet setup. So they probably will spend time working on this setup as well. So in this further makes things interesting to see how these drivers get on with the wet tires as well, because as you mentioned, the 2020 game offers a lot of different grip levels when compared to the 2019 game. Some corners where we used to brake earlier are now flat out or half throttle, so it's going to be quite tricky.
And yeah, you have been spot on in the fact that we have changed a lot from the 2019 game to the 2020 game right now. So the whole setup and the whole control on the car has been completely different in this just one game. So yeah, now everyone has to deal with how they have to maintain the setups because setup has usually been the key. It's like either you go for a setup which is like very fast, but it won't give you the tire wear that you need to last it longer. So, and this piece in testing, what we are plan to do is like we have kept in different weathers, and right now, as you can see, is the wet weather, and it will slowly progress to the dry weather towards the end of the practice. And yeah, now the drivers are starting to come out of their pits, trying to see the grips on the intermediate tires.
There we
So
can
right,
see Not So Masoom, the runner-up from Tier 2, is the first one out of the grid. So it must be an interesting testing for him. It's time for him to prove that he can run with the big boys. He is the rookie and he will be trying to do really well and exceed expectations as a rookie this year.
I mean, yeah, there are a lot of people, as you said before, have jumped from tier 2 to tier 1 based on the true merit, I would say. So now let's kind of go into the driver lineups as we see them progress towards the practice session. So first team, which I would say consists of the season 4 drivers champion from tier 1 is Manelo. team of Renault, which consists of Manelo Baby and Babaji. So Manelo Baby is obviously looking to defend his title yet again, not surprised at all. Yeah, this is the fifth time he is going to defend, fourth time actually going to defend his title. But yeah, now he might have a tougher challenge ahead of him since this whole game has completely revamped at some point. And partnering him is Babaji, who has been known not to have the pace, but is very good in his racecraft and his overall like in depth on how the car works. So I'm sure he'll actually help Manolo also clinch the Constructor Championship, which Manolo actually won that first time in last season. So I think Manolo is going to repeat that feat. So what do you think, Rastin? What do you think about the whole Renault lineup?
So the Renault lineup is really strong as it is, but I'd also like to talk about the Alfa Romeo team because as you saw toward the end of last season, General Pepe was really pushing up the ranks and he was really challenging Maranello. I think he won the last two races as well. So while it's easy for us, it's almost like a Lewis Hamilton level situation where we think Mara might come on top, but I do feel like the Alfa Romeo team of General Pepe and Evil Dog can put up a good competition because as we've seen over the last season as well, General Pepe usually is the one with the better setup and Mara acknowledges this as well that General Pepe really sets his car up well. And I think on 2020 the car setups matter a little bit more. So that'll be interesting to see as well, don't you think?
Yes, and speaking of General Pepe, the lineup of Alfa Romeo, which consists of General Pepe and Evil Dog 666, weird name. Okay, I would say, by the end of the three numbers. But yes, this lineup is also pretty strong considering both are tier 1 from last season as well. So they know the grid kind of well. So they might get like a hang on who is quick, who is slow, who they have to beat realistically, and who they don't have to fight for. And yeah, so General Pepe has a good chance of actually challenging Manolo in this game, if he like shows his true pace over here, because he hasn't been in this game in like playing this game for a while. So I'm expecting him to like get as much grip as he can in this preseason testing and try to challenge Manolo for the Drivers' Championship.
As we talk about that, we now have a fastest lap time. General Pepe, whom we were talking about, sets the fastest lap time at 1:29, which is pretty good on the intermediate tires. It's not very far off pace. So clearly, they're not sandbagging. They're pushing every lap. So I think one more team which is going to really push the limits this year is probably going to be the McLaren. I mean, last year the team McLaren did win the constructors, having Maranello Baby in their driver lineup. But this year they go with the Real SD and No More Pro Player, both really good drivers. So Real SD coming second in the championship last season as well. So McLaren might want to keep the crown of winning the constructors championship.
Yes, definitely. Now, McLaren, as you said, has like SD's partner with No Profi, who has actually like sort of improved a lot from the 2019 to the 2020 game. In 2019, he showed a quite decent pace in Tier 1, but really didn't fight for the positions. But now, as I saw his time trials, I'm like, he probably can even challenge Maranello at this point, but he needs to prove that in the race condition. So I'm really looking forward to him like challenge the top dogs of this tier 1. And yeah, the McLaren actually has a good like highly good chance of like competing with like the top constructors, I would say.
Indeed, it is true that your
Oh,
one lap
sorry to
pace
cut
is
you off,
very-
guys, but Black Sheep just ran off in sector 3. Yeah.
Yes, Black Sheep is actually kind of going for the wet weather tires. I guess he's trying to just get the grip on how the wet weather feels on this light train, I would say, because it's not that heavy. But he's definitely trying something new, which I don't see anyone else trying so far. So yeah.
I think the track is not wet enough for those tires, so they overheated and he lost traction on the gear, leading to a spin because he doesn't seem to have a lot of damage, but he goes into the pits to, I guess, bring on a set of inters because it's clearly not wet enough for those wet weather tires.
So far as we look down the pre-season testing, we are seeing people like pick on the paces and like fastest lap after fastest lap is just coming in right now. And like Anirudh also speaking of that, has a decent lap in his inters. And also Babaji also quite following him through. Oh, and I just saw a
Oh,
Yeah.
McLaren spinning out. That's real SD. That's not what
no,
you should be showing to the other contenders, cause it might
yeah,
be a weak spot for
I
you and a
think
strong one for others.
that was no more pro player running off on his outlap. Surprisingly, I don't think his tires are up to temperature.
Oh, my bad. It was
But
no proof. Yeah,
yeah,
sorry. I didn't
talking
realize
of
that.
talking of Anirudh, let's talk about Williams. We have Streeter and Anirudh, two drivers, and there's another driver in the wall, Rajdeep Paul, I believe. He just joined IRC, and this is his first season, I believe. I might be wrong, but he goes around for a spin as well. These conditions are clearly very tricky.
Yes, I guess the track is also kind of evolving. The rain has kind of stopped, and the only thing left is the sort of a bit of water in on the track. So I guess that's what now this, as you can say, in this situation, if it was a race, this would have probably been a crossover point.
Exactly, that's very true. So these drivers finding it tricky. I think all of them might go in to come out on slicks soon. So going back to Williams, we have Streeter and Anirudh, both really quick, both will be wanting to challenge, but they're really taking the social media game up by storm as well. They have created an IRC Williams social media page on Instagram along with the tier 2 drivers, and I think like that shows the level of commitment and involvement these drivers are putting into the season.
Yeah, exactly. Like this is like a insane level of commitment. I've never seen this actually in the whole of this season, like 5 seasons, I would say. So that really is very interesting. I would say coming on to the drivers, Streeter has been like a veteran of IRC and has been taking part in since season one, I would say. And he has always shown a level of like consistency to in his racing, and he has always stayed on top. Like he always competed with the tried to compete with the top drivers, try to challenge, not like let them by so easily. And then the next driver we talk about is Anirudh, who's actually come from tier 2, like we said it before. Like he is the driver who actually challenged Tanish, even though he was crowned the drivers championship in tier 2 last season. He was still fighting with him till the end for the constructor championship. And if you want to watch a great battle in Brazilian GP, head on to the YouTube channel and watch the Brazilian GP of tier 2. I would say that was some insane racing. When I saw it, I'm like, while editing those videos, I couldn't believe this racing was possible, just from start to end, battling it out each other.
Absolutely, some of the cleanest drivers on the game right here. I'd say this is probably arguably the best driver lineup we've had in the 5 seasons we've been running. So I can assure all the viewers that this season is going to be a lot more fun, and it's not going to be as predictable as the last season in tier 2. I
Yes,
mean in tier
definitely.
1, I'm sorry.
Yes, definitely. And as we see now in front of our screens, Tanish has posted a lap of 129.931 and is on a very lighter fuel, I would say. It's not running that heavy fuel load.
Yeah, absolutely. He probably is trying to just get into grips with the tire and his car, so he's not carrying race pace fuel at the same time. He's not doing a quali sim as well. So, but he did a 129.9, which is pretty, which is just 3/10 of the race leader. Surprise, surprise, Maranello baby. I mean, practice leader, Maranello baby. But like the fight for the top three is right on from last season. Mara, General Pepe, and the Real SD, they're up there fighting for the fastest lap of the session.
Yeah, exactly. Some deja vu action going on right here. And I would say actually, Manolo is like, you can see sort of the Hamilton of this league. And other drivers are like Max Verstappen, Leclerc and stuff. So yeah, actually, this season actually may be a hard time for Manolo maybe, I would say. And
But
now coming on to the team which could challenge Manelo Baby is the Racing Point team consisting of Black Sheep and Tanish Agarwal, also known as Tanish.ag02. And yeah, so their lineup is pretty strong, I would say, because Black Sheep is a like highly like competitive person, and he's also very strong in this game right now. Like he knows what corners to take, what not to take. He knows how to take on the tracks, and he has competed with the top dogs like and gave them a hard time, but hasn't really challenged for any titles yet. So I'm really looking forward to him like challenging for like constructors at least, if not drivers. and partnering him is Tanish Agarwal, who is actually a tier 2 champion of last season, and he had been insanely dominant in that season. I would say, like he was like literally like Michael Schumacher all over the place in that season, sort of. But yeah, now this lineup can actually like give him a hard time to Manelo baby, because this season I don't think so he's gonna get an easy win. I guess he has to actually fight for it.
Absolutely, and I think he'll relish the challenge. And for everyone tuning in for the first time, and in general, everyone tuning in, let me just run you through that all these cars are on equal performance. So, it doesn't really matter what car you're driving, it all comes down to the driver's skill level. So, you don't need to worry about the pink Mercedes, it is just a racing point, and its performance will be similar to any other car out there.
Yes, there's no protest going on over here, so chill out. So as
So,
we see in the track, I'm sorry about that, but as we see on the track right now, like many people have actually now gone to the drives. So the top one is Manelo on hard tabs actually, but the fuel load is quite questionable right now. And as we see Rajdeep Paul and Babaji and okay, many people. Yeah, but as we see right now, I guess not many people are on the track right now. I guess they're just taking quite a look at what others doing and just trying to see what's happening right there. But now Danish is on a heavy fuel load, like how it usually should be. 26 laps is kind of, you can say, 3/4 of the 50% of this track.
yeah. Indeed, he is. It looks like he's running a race simulation and trying to gather data. Rajdeep Paul, meanwhile, said purple, purple, purple on the mediums and breaks the 120 barrier. He just clocked a 119.060, so that's quite a competitive time, even for um, first testing. But he seemed to have done a quali run. It does not look like he carried fuel, if any.
Yes, definitely. I think he has been. I think as the data speaks, it's a zero, which is quite highly unlikely. But I think he's running on a very low fuel mode. So I think he's kind of just taking a quali run out of it and still pushing it out just to see how much the tire goes till it drops out, even in a quali situation. If you bin your first lap and you want to like go for the second lap as quick as possible, so I guess this is what he's kind of trying to do.
Indeed, no more pro player after that spin early is yet to get a lap time in, along with Black Sheep, Oxygen, and Couples. Talking of Couples, let's talk about the Red Bull team. KC and Couples, what do you think about them?
So this is a very like these two drivers have been performing since. So Kapil has been performing since season one, and also is probably the constructor champion of season one. So he has been like off for a while. So I'm really expecting him to like come back strong this season. And he also uses no assist, like no racing line, no ABS, no traction, nothing. He's purely on like the pro level sort of stuff. So I just want him to like get back to his pace like he used to before. And partnering him is Casey, who actually has shown quite a lot of improvement since like the beginning of the 2018 days, and he has been like up there challenging like General Pepe as the real SD, and even like very close to Manelo baby, I would say. But yeah, this Red Bull lineup in last season couldn't deliver much because of some issues with the drivers. He couldn't attend much of it, but I just want to see them like give that tough competition and just show them that last season this would have been the result.
Indeed, that will be very interesting to see the Red Bull put up a challenge this year. He is pretty close to the racing point in front of him. I'm not sure if he wants to back off and get some clean air, but as we all know, even in the game, dirty air does play a major part, especially in Sector 3 over here, where you have a few slow corners, and you could see that he did lose his rear for a little bit, but a lot of skill in keeping the car together.
Yes, speaking of the dirty air, this game has now kind of been very tough on the dirty air aspect of it. The previous game, even if you've been on like the below 5 tenths on a car, it would have that's the point when the dirty air would have affected. But in this game, even if you are like 1 second within someone, the dirty air is so like powerful that it's very hard to hold on to someone. you cannot catch that car. Like I've raced this in this game before, and when I was ahead of someone and that guy was way quicker than me, he still couldn't like catch me. Like that was a very surprising thing.
Indeed. Talking about changes, we have a whole new ERS mode, so that's going to be very interesting because over the course of 50 laps, and if you're stuck in battles, it's going to be very tricky about how you use your ERS because obviously it will keep replenishing every lap, but maybe not as much as you want it to. So that'll be very tricky as well this season.
Yes, definitely. The ERS mode has completely changed. Especially, it's very hard on the race situations. Like, it always stays on one setting according to the track, I guess. And then, if you want to use the overtake button, you can. But the problem is, it drains so much quicker than last year's. I feel like it was last year's Hot Laps mode that put on as an overtake mode. But it drains so quickly that if you are like a bit, even if you can't maintain the consistency, and if you slip off even a slightly bit, you may fall off very much further, and it's gonna be hard to catch that person. So I think the whole ERS has made the drivers like kind of fight purely based on the pace they have and the consistency they have to put up with. So yeah, this whole ERS has completely changed the whole mechanism of this game.
Indeed, now Marinello also clocks a 119. He's just a couple of hundreds behind Rajdeep Paul, but he is running on the harder tires. But I think we are having a slight issue with the fuel load. But his lap times, that was his first quick lap, I believe. So it'll be interesting to see if he'll be able to maintain this pace. And as we all know, it's not just about clocking one quick lap. It's about the ability to keep repeating it every lap, and that's how you improve as a driver.
Yes, exactly. Maranello has been like kind of a king of consistency in this league. Like he has been so impeccable in this consistency that there's a reason he like wins a lot in first place. Like the consistency, that's the key of this game at this point. In 2019, you could still kind of get away with the consistency part of it, but in this game, sorry if I said something. But in this game, it kind of is the main thing right now. Like consistency is very hard to keep up with, especially when you're sitting in a very broken chair. If you don't have a good like rig to yourself, it's very hard to like keep that thing. But you know, we Indians get around with everything most of the time. So I guess everyone else does as well, I would say. So yeah, this is going to be a very challenging thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And he sets up a new fastest lap. He breaks the 119 barrier. He goes into the 118 sixes on the hards. A little lockup through there. One more interesting thing about this game is the fact that it is pretty punishing on you if you're too early or too if you're not gentle on the throttle. So that's going to be quite the challenge for these drivers as well, especially if you're on the keyboard or controller. So it'll be interesting to see how all of these drivers adapt as quickly as possible to that.
Yes, you're definitely right. Because according to what I have noticed when I played this game, like the very first beginning when I started playing this game, like I broke. Then I don't know why I went a bit of it understeered for me a lot than I probably would have expected from the 2019 game. So it was very understeery when I braked a bit later than usual, and it was like that's point you realize that this game is not like gonna let you go so easily with the late braking and stuff. So you have to be on the edge when you perform in league races.
Rajdeep Paul comes right back with an other fastest lap, slightly quicker. 800ths of a second is all that separates, even though he is on the mediums. Again, talking about understeer, we had quite a few drivers complain about understeer in this game. So everything changes. It is running on the same engine, but these changes will impact these drivers. It might suit some drivers, and some drivers might find it harder. And they'll have to adapt to these changes by working on their setups. So that's where practice comes in, and that's why all these drivers are putting in these laps right now.
Yes, definitely. Now we can see many drivers are kind of tailing others. I guess they're just trying to see the grasp of how dirty air and how the slipstream works in this track. Because in real life, this track is known to be very hard on the dirty air aspect of it, especially Sector 1 and Sector 3, I would say. Sector 1 in the long third right-hander, the dirty air is so impactful that you lose so much time, and the grip also goes down by so much. So it's like very hard to keep up with someone. So I guess drivers would want to see that, how they go on with it. But yeah, so far everyone has been clocking some good number of laps. Mostly I see is all 6 lappers. Average I guess is being around 5 to 4 laps.
Indeed. So talking about dirty air, especially turn 9 becomes really tricky when you're tailing a car. One, you want to be right at the gearbox because you are heading into a DRS zone, but it's just such a quick corner that even a slight mistake, it puts you off. You run wide, you're into gravel, or if you get understeer, you might lose your rear. So all these challenges are there. So all these drivers will want to be at the top of the time boards when it comes to quali and race to not have that problem. But let's talk about Rajdeep Paul and his teammate Russell driving for the Alpha Tauri. He is the quickest driver right now and he's now out on fresh heart. What do you think about these two?
So Rajdeep Paul and Russell has been in this community for a long time. In between, he took a long break, I would say, in season 4. But yes, he's known to be one of the quickest drivers that I know actually personally, and I have actually won the constructors championship with him in season 3. So I really know how he actually goes on with the race. He may not be like that much on top in qualifying, but when it comes to race, he just shows on, like he just comes in very quick and just doesn't let anyone like stay ahead so easily. And speaking of Rajdeep Paul has been quite impressive. I heard as of what I heard in PS4 leagues. So I'm really expecting him to like really perform well in the PC league of ours. And yeah, I just expect, like from the social race I have seen, he tends to like be like Max Verstappen a bit, but I guess that's like kind of a point in this game. We have to sometimes go in for the move that which probably we never think of.
Absolutely, especially if you want to go head to head with some of the best in India, you will have to go that extra mile and give it your all. But do you think it's fair to assume that he will be running this league on a controller, or do you think he has a wheel setup?
Rajdeep has a wheel as as per what I've like seen in his YouTube channel, which you can,
Okay.
if you want, you guys can follow him. But yeah, in his YouTube channel he has been like showing his rigs and stuff. So I think pretty much he has a wheel, and yes, he's showing a good pace right now. Like if hot lap or not, but he has really put a good lap in the leaderboard, and we see on the screen Alfa Romeo spin out. Not sure who that was, but yeah, I guess they are really pushing that edge over there.
We are talking about the Mercedes Dreyfus, as we saw a while ago, is running a race simulation. Can we go to Dreyfus, please? And he's putting really consistent lap time. Sure, he's not up there. He's a couple of seconds off, but he is running with 44 kilograms of fuel, and he's been out there for a while. So it's very interesting to see that he's putting these consistent lap times. And sure, him and his teammate RB Ferrello, who I believe came third in the Tier 2 league last season, will really want to get a move on and prove everyone wrong this season and try to fight for the title this time.
Yes, definitely. Like Gryphus, as we see now, he's actually one of the admins, including Manelo Baby, the real SD and KC, and he has been off from the league and the community a bit while because of his career. And yeah, I would expect him to be like one of the quick boys to come up, and he's on a controller as of what I know. So yeah, and this game actually now kind of supports controller based a bit more, and the pace is really similar between the controller and the wheel for now. But with the updates, let's see like how it goes on with the controller people, because usually in the previous games they were the one who are having hard time with it, but now we can see a very close competition between them.
Indeed, talking about tire wear, I think he's run 6 laps and he has about close to 30% tire wear on the front left. So that's close to 5% per lap on the medium. So that's going to be quite tricky as well to manage tire wear over the course of a 50% race.
Yes, so now as I see, now the Mercedes are having like following the Renault, I would say right now. Like he's
Yeah,
actually quite pushing his like too much that he's actually kind of going off track a bit as well. And now in this game, the track limits of what I like experienced, the track limits are very strict in this game. Like the regular one is too much regular, and the strict is like so strict that even slightly bit on the white line, and that goes your warning and maybe a penalty as well. That's the point we were saying. Consistency is very hard right now. Include like if we add on the whole exceeding track limits part of it as well.
absolutely. We were talking about it, and it's almost like 2019 strict is 2020's regular, which makes things very, very hard. Because, like, over the course of a time, maybe we will see penalties make a large difference towards the end of the race results this season.
Yes, definitely. So now, as we look on the leaderboard ahead of us, we have now the most I can see is clocked by Casey, 10 laps on his hard tires. And yes, he's just pushing. Like both the Red Bulls are just going for it. Like 10 laps have been out for 10 laps now, and they're just going for like how much they can stretch it out.
Indeed, they probably want to see the life of these hards to see if a one stop is viable, a hard medium one stop, if they can get into a good position on the mediums during quali. So all of these mind games will be on from all these teams. They'll already be thinking about the season ahead and not just trying to adapt to the game. So very interesting to see them go for such large stints on the hards. But interestingly, no one on the softs yet. Nobody wants to do any quali sims as of yet.
Well, this game has been notorious for the soft stint in the any like 50% race. We like usually league races do. Like so for what I experienced and I've seen like other drivers, like the soft tires wear down a lot, especially when the track also doesn't suit. For example, like Singapore. Like Singapore is known for like the tire temps completely blowing up the roof and just putting those soft tires as if they were nothing. Like after 2-3 laps.
I don't know. In a way, that does feel like the game is making things more realistic because you hear drivers in real life also complain about the temperatures of their softs. In fact, today during quali, we saw that some drivers decided to do their final run on mediums because they thought their softs won't last a whole lap.
Yes, definitely. Now, speaking of that, the soft tires in this game, like, I have also had a fair share of like, at some point I feel like if I stretch a bit too much, it may blow up like the British Grand Prix last week.
All these things will be coming into play once we go racing. We are practicing right now and we already have so much to talk about. I just can't wait for the next week and it's going to be so exciting. We're going to see some amazing overtakes and I just have no words. I just can't wait for next weekend.
So the next weekend, the first race is obviously going to be Australian GP, not Austrian GP, because we will follow the usual 22 race calendar. And yeah, the first race is going to be next week, which is actually going to be in the midst of Independence Day of India. So yeah, obviously it's a holiday anyways, and everyone is at home already. So I guess we will see a full attendance at the very first race, and let's see what happens in that race. But now speaking of that, the preseason testing has been going quite good for now. Everyone is testing their own limits, trying to push the setup as hard as they can, try to see which tires last which tires don't last much.
So let's talk about the Ferrari team now. Freeman, who's been here, and Noto Maso, who's a rookie who just finished second in the Drivers' Championship behind Tanish in Tier 2. And now Freeman and Noto Maso are here repping Ferrari.
Yes, definitely. The Ferrari team lineup now, as you see, consists of Masum and Freeman. Freeman is actually a multiple constructors champion of Tier 1 in previous seasons. And yes, so he has been like a good wingman. I'd hate to say this, but he has been a good wingman for the drivers he was paired with so far. And he has actually pushed the team to get the constructors champion. For example, the last season itself, he was paired up with Manolo Baby himself. So he brought the constructors championship with him again in the previous season and give Manolo Baby his first constructors championship as well. So I'm really looking forward to him like scoring points and just making hard for everyone else. And then
Maybe
partnering, and then I'm sorry, what are you gonna say something?
no, I was just going to say maybe this is the season where he steps out of the shadow of driver number one and takes things by charge. He takes his team's um, major point scoring credibility in charge while Not So Masoom settles into tier one.
Yes, I guess definitely because as you see, Freeman I would say has a more experience. And speaking of that, I see Masoom glitching towards the end of off of the road, but then again back on track. Anyways, like speaking of now, not so Masoom is actually, as you said, has done well in tier two, and now in this game in time trials, his pace has been impeccable. He likes now he has quite understood this game like better than everyone, I would say, in terms of setup, in terms of the whole how howabouts and stuff. So he has now a bit more in his back, like more advantage than others. Even Manila at this point, because Manila has not clocked that much hours in this game, but Masoom has clocked many hours in this game so far, and I'm really looking forward to see him like compete in a high order, and yeah, challenge them and make everyone like give them a hard time just in general.
Indeed, talking about setups, I'd be lying if I said I did not steal his setups from time trial for whenever I was racing this on this game. But he's doing consistent 119s. He is running a race simulation. He's got about, I think when he started off, he had 30 laps of fuel, which is close to 50% of the race, the fuel you'll carry into a race. So he's doing good times. He's keeping them consistent. I think he took a slowdown lap to maybe try and get his tires back into temperature after that slight glitch last lap. So, very promising signs for him today.
Yes, exactly. He has been on 6 laps of hard tires, a fuel load of probably, I would say, probably the stint of what his tires are gonna need if it's the end of the race, towards the end of the race. And his time also looks the graph also looks very consistent. And if you don't like understand sort of this graph, if you don't, the lines lower are the ones which are like the quickest they have done so far, and and as you go higher, it goes slower. So far, if you see the graph, it's very consistent. It's like almost a straight line towards, but just towards the end, he has quite dropped his pace, probably just to see the ERS conserving, how it works, where to conserve and where to not. So yeah, he has now so far he has been doing good in the preseason testing, and really looking forward to like seeing him like race, like
Absolutely. And surprisingly, Maranello sets the fastest lap. It is showing probably that fuel load does matter because 14 laps into his hards, he just set the fastest lap time at
yes,
180.
it's 118 actually.
Yeah, 118, almost 118 flat. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, exactly. And so, speaking of those fuel loads, so the fuel load also has not changed much, I would say, but has like, if you use rich mode, the fuel won't decrease quite a lot as it used to do in 2019. So the fuel management is kind of alright, I would say, in this game. Like you can push a bit more, but it depends on where you need to push. So the engine heats up obviously, and that could also lack performance in like when they go for, especially when they are behind someone else and in the dirty air. So the engine temps are gonna like shoot up obviously, and yeah, they're just gonna lose the performance. So they need to like really get on with like how much they are losing in that sense.
Indeed. So let's talk about the final team, the Haas team, which has Private Jackson, that is Prakhar Watt, and Arav, who is also known as Oxygen.
Yes, so these two have like Prakhar Vats, I have personally raced him in the social races, and yes, I had a great battle with him. Like you can say towards like 70% of the race I was having like wheel on wheel action with him. And yeah, he is also like one of those drivers who's using no assist at all, like no racing line, nothing. So yeah, and his race pace also is very consistent, I would say. Like he knows when to push, when to not. And yes, I'm really looking forward to him how much he can progress in this tier 1 season 5. And the one partnering him is Oxygen, also known as Arrow, not the Arab that we all know from the YouTube. But yeah, he has also been like a sort of a veteran in this community, I would say. So yeah, he has also been like, he has always stayed in midfield. I really want him to push, but he has like this time he had a bit of a break because of his education purposes. So yeah, I just want to see him now trying to push and trying to get up with the grips of this game.
I will say right now he's 16th on the time chart, but he'll definitely want to improve, and I think he does. He will improve. I think he was running a few different simulations. All of this comes down to that as well. How much you want to deploy your ERS, how much you don't want to. So a lot of variables right now.
Yes, definitely. Now, like if you see the whole time sheet ahead of us, like it's pretty close if you see, even if you consider the tires they are on, like it's really very close right now. And we probably don't know what setup they used or what fuel load they were on previously. But yeah, definitely now this season is going to be the closest, I would say, in terms of like actions and whole point scoring situation.
We have a few drivers coming out on mediums, doing their second long stint on mediums. So we will probably get an updated time card soon because the mediums are faster than the hards. They provide more grip, which is very important in talking about grip. KC runs wide. I don't know if he's trying to make way for the McLaren on a hot lap or if he lost his car there a little. Looks like he was trying to make way for the McLaren.
Yes, he was definitely giving way to the McLaren, and as we see the map on our right, like we can see many people are like on the track right now. Like no one is in the pits right now. The only four drivers in the pits, probably trying to go through the setups, like what they can make it better. Because the setup is the one that has been like the most like is the issue when a game releases in the first few months. So you have to get, and especially when the game mechanism has changed completely, the set getting on with the setup is now kind of a key at this pre-season testing. Like you would want to change some things just to see how much a tire lasts, how much you lose pace, how much you gain pace, how much you can push, how much you can not push. So yeah, this whole thing is gonna be like a interesting one, because as we saw, Masum is now kind of more experienced in setup wise as Manolo Baby, but Manolo Baby is not new to this game, so I'm expecting him to get the grasp of it quickly.
As we go on a lap around on board with Casey, not the best of signs from him so far. He does have a 120, but his average race pace was 121 on the hards. As you can see the graph, it was moving around quite a bit. He runs wide over there again. I think now he'll start his first hot lap on these fresh mediums he has. Will be interesting to see if he was struggling with the hards or if he was just trying different things with the setup.
I feel like there's a lot of traffic right now because many drivers are out there and just someone or the other is like trying to overtake him, trying to get past him, and he just has to let it go if like he's not on a good lap. So I wouldn't like this, like it's not his fault that he's out on track, but there are a lot of drivers right now, and you have to be cautious on whom to let go, whom to not, because in qualifying situations, it has been lot of times we see like drivers impeding others, not knowing if they're in the quali run or not. So yeah, like this is a whole different case. Like that's why we did pre-season testing, just to see, like just to get them grasp of like what to do in league races.
Indeed, now he has some fresh air running behind the McLaren of the real SD, I believe, who has been putting in good times. He's still running on those hard tires. He's put in 16 laps, um, which is close third. A couple and RB Ferrello have more laps on the hard. But look at the graph. That is such a linear graph. It is almost a flat line.
That graph, like it literally is a straight line at this point. Like it's just kind of like very close to perfect, I would say. Like
Absolutely.
SD is very known for being consistent in his lap times. Like in race, in qualifying, in anything, he has been consistent all around. Even if it's a controller or a wheel, he's been consistent when it needs to be consistent.
He's got his fastest lap at 119.5, but his average pace is just 3 tenths off and running more than 17 laps on those tires. That is very good pace, I would say.
Yes, now SD has been like kind of a bit bitter about this game in the beginning, but he's like kind of loving this game as of what I've heard last time. And yes, this his lap time actually shows as well.
Some inside the paddock snippets over there from Ninja Zero as Ezzy's right front Tier-1 is going into the hot orange zone, and he might be starting to lose grip around now. He probably already did, but he's doing an incredible job, still doing the quickest middle sector by him. So I'm honestly pretty speechless right now. That's incredible skill.
Yes, so I'm not surprised that his front left is like huge on like where right now. So this track is our clockwise track, obviously, and that's what this game mechanism has completely changed. Like, if it's clockwise track, the front lefts actually were quite a lot than in 2019. And yes, the whole tire pressure also has completely changed. Now, in the previous game, you probably would have done only in the front and the back, the rear of the car. Now you can do front left, each front. Now you can change for each tire, I would say, front left, front right, rear left. So you can balance that out just to get a sweet spot on how your tire temps and how your tire wear should be. So as it's a clockwise circuit, the front, I'm not surprised the front left is that worn out, but yes, he's still quite getting some consistent lap with that worn tires.
Indeed, for all the viewers wondering what a setup is, just like a real F1 car, even on the game, in case you haven't played the game yet, you can set up from everything from your aero, which is your front wing, rear wing, to your suspension geometry, your suspension stiffness, ride height, and tire pressures and brake pressure as well. So that's what we were talking about, in case you haven't played the game yet.
Yes, now if you want to purchase the game, you can. It's on Steam, Xbox, wherever you want to. I'm not promoting this anything, but this game so far, what I've felt is like quite good, I would say. It gives a close racing action if you want, if you're actually really looking forward to it, and not the one which we see in real life, Hamilton taking all the wins and stuff. So yeah, this is a pretty good game for that, I would say. And yeah, I'm kind of sad that my controller or peripherals don't work at all, but I'm just waiting for this season to begin and just watch them race again.
It's going to be super exciting as we continue on board with no more pro player who is on fresh medium. So he will be trying to break the 118 mark and enter into the 118s. His lap times have been a little up and down. He's still getting to terms with his car, his setup, probably changed a few things to get a better feel of the car as well.
Yes, as we look at his graph looks like kind of like one point he's saving, like is like say slowing it down, then he's going for a few laps, then he's again slowing it down, and then pushing for a quick lap, and then he's just trying to like I guess push on and see how faster he can go, how much he can gain in certain corners, especially like there are a few corners in this track that you can lose a lot of time, especially the sequence of turn 1, 2 and then 3, I would say. Then turn 5 and 6, the chicane before the DRS, that's the place where you lose a lot of time or you gain a lot of time, depends on how you take it. And yeah, and the whole sector 3 is also kind of tricky, like you don't know how to take that corner very perfectly, especially when the last part of the sector 3 has completely changed in a certain way that it's kind of angled in a different way, so taking up that corner in a different sort of sense is like gonna be tough for the drivers.
He runs wide in sector 1, so he lost a second over there, but he probably is still getting his tires up to temperature, so probably the next lap we will see his real pace on the mediums. Uh, up on top, Baba G, who is Marinello's teammate, just is now P3 and he's running on old mediums, 12 lap old mediums, so very promising signs for Renault right now.
Yes, exactly. Like that's what Babaji is known for. He knows the whole racing aspect of it, even though he may not have the pace. But right now he's showing that he's like sort of secretly sandbagged this whole time, and now he's showing his true pace over here.
And looking at the graph, he's been incredibly consistent, just like the real SD on those mediums. And I think right now he's on an in lap, or he's been cooling his tires down. So like I said, all these drivers are proving why they are out here on Tier 1 and why they are challenging for the title.
I mean, yes, like as you see them, like you kind of get the sense of like you have to play a lot of this to like actually get really good at this, because it doesn't happen overnight. and like you need, especially for league races, you need quite a lot of practice, like to get on with the race pace, the whole consistency, the racecraft, how to get on with overtaking and stuff. Because now, right now, they might not be in the sense of like overtaking people, but even overtaking can be pretty hard in this racing conditions.
It cliched, but practice does make a person perfect. Talking further down, Anirudh is still at P16. He's on fresh hards. Interesting. And Arav Oxygen is still down there. They're trying to break the 119 mark. They're probably fiddling around with their setups.
Yes, definitely. They have a lot of time on their back right now, and actually the weather is like, I guess the temperatures are also kind of increasing. I would say I don't know how much it affects in the game, to be honest, but I guess it is very slightly margin. But that yes, but that now I can see Rajdeep Paul on his for very first day on the soft tire right now. I don't know if he's actually going for a race stint sort of situation or a quali lap right now. But looking at his graph, I would say only one lap, only 1 or 2 laps, it looked like he didn't do quite well. For the others one, he's actually getting quicker at the time.
Indeed, now this is his first lap on the softs, and not surprising, but he's set a purple sector 2, but he lost quite a bit of time in sector 1, but I'm pretty sure he'll make it through. And talking about the fastest lap times, Tanish with a monster lap on the mediums gets into the 117s, and not just gets into the 117s, absolutely shatters in at 117.652.
I guess sandbagging times are over now, is it? Everyone is just now going for the quickest lap they can.
Absolutely. I think like now players are really trying to look into their quali sims as well. We're halfway into this practice session, slightly over halfway, and Rajdeep now shows the strength of the media of the softs and sets a 117 flat pretty much.
Yes, now after seeing him, everyone will probably think like, let's try a soft run and let's see how much can we push in the soft run. But this is only gonna be mostly useful in qualifying purposes.
Yeah.
Because in race, it doesn't really last that long. It always puts you in a situation where you think, should you do one stop, should you two stop? Like it puts you in a really questionable position, I would say.
Indeed. And also looks like this lap he's just cooling down. Maybe he's on an in lap based on his time. So that was I think we can confirm that that was a quali sim.
Yes, that definitely looks a bit of a quali sim right there.
Now we have a lot. I think we only have two drivers in the pits, so the track is getting hot, and I don't know how much. Do you have any idea if track evolution does play a major part on this game?
Say the track evolution, it's more like after like drivers start running down few laps, they are like quite getting very comfortable with it. So they are like, it's not like I would say track evolution is more like a player evolution. Like they are just now kind of getting the flow of it, like how to go on with it.
Indeed, they probably are figuring out where they're losing out. They would have gone back into the pits, looked at the timesheets, and seen which sectors they're falling out, and they're probably pushing in those sectors. And one more interesting thing is the ERS this year, given the boost it gives, like if you know you're bad at one particular corner, you can use the ERS in over there to try and make sure you're not losing time. So a lot of changes, and Tanish runs wide over there, gets his lap invalidated, but a lot of changes for these drivers to adapt to, and I think that's why these drivers are posting quicker times as they adapt to those changes.
I mean, as you saw just now, like a bit, he just ran wide a bit, and that also counted as an invalidated time. So yeah, like you can't push even a bit further. You have to be right on the other. And as
Oh,
he just
and
spun out at the pit entry, and I'm not sure if the damage on. Doesn't look like the damage is on,
no,
but
look,
he's
yeah,
quite like if that would have been a race, it would have been a very devastating end for him. But as like now he probably like sort of gets that hang of it, like this is how much I should push, not I should not exceed so much.
interesting decision by him to stay out on the track. I think in retrospect he might have wanted to go in, cool down his tires, get them back to temperature, and come out. But I'm pretty sure he'll do a good lap this one to make sure his tires are back in temperature. Marinello did go for a slow lap. I think that was his in lap and out lap. That's why we have the slight crest over there. But now on fresh mediums, let's see if he'll be able to beat the if he'll be able to break through the 118-second barrier.
I mean, if you just look at the onboard of Manilo Baby for a few seconds, if you see like the way he takes the line, and yeah, as you see, he blocked a bit. I would say more of too much pushing over there right now. But if you see the lines he takes quite in a certain way that he doesn't lose much time in the exits. So he's covering up quite a lot. But as you saw just now, a bit on the edge, and he just got a track extension warning. So yeah, it's like clearly kind of gonna be painful for the drivers. And, like I'm expecting some like radio calls, like what the hell is happening right now and stuff like that.
Indeed. Especially when you're absolutely pushing it in quali and when it invalidates your lap, you could be pretty devastated.
Yes, especially on a qualifying run when, for example, you do your first banker lap, you try to get the flow, but you try to wait for a couple of minutes, like towards the end of the qualifying, go for a quali lap, and then bend it somehow, and then that's like gets so painful. Like I've actually been in that place before in Japan of season 3. Like my last lap I was increasing, and the bump, which actually doesn't exist anymore in this game, that bump actually kind of threw me completely off and just threw me into the pit entry wall and just ended my quali run over there.
Indeed, runs a little wide over there and loses the rear as well. Thankfully, we don't have damage on, and he will try to nurse the car back onto the track and cool his tires down. They must be red hot given that spin over there, and the track temperatures seem to be increasing as well. A rare mistake by Mara, but all the other drivers on the grid must be looking at this really happily. He first gets an invalidated lap time and then he spins around. Shows that this game is unforgiving, like we talked about earlier.
Yes, exactly. And even like driver like Manolo Baby, who has been champion for like 4 seasons, is still not like afraid of pushing the limits. He's actually like trying to see how much he can gain, how much he can just go for it.
Talking about pushing the limits, Freeman is pushing those limits on those hard tires. He's done 22 laps on those on a race simulation, so he's had all the fuel on them. And apart from a few crests, which might have been like different laps, maybe to try and give way to a faster driver behind, he has been pretty consistent and he's absolutely punishing those tires. I think he's close to 80% tire wear on the front left, and he's still pushing.
Yes, as you can see on the telemetry on the bottom left, both of his left side of the tires are like, really? Are you seriously should be pushing that much right now? But he's still going for it. He's like not even making much mistakes over here. He's just keep on going for it. He's not even slowing down. He's not trying to save it. He's just pushing it right now.
If you look at his last lap time, it's pretty close to what he's been setting on those hards at this point of stage. So pretty impressive. If he had a race engineer, you would hear him complaining, but we don't have race engineers over here. The drivers make their own calls. And interesting call by him to push his tires. If I'm not wrong, those tires are close to the end of their life, and I wouldn't be surprised if he suffered a puncture any moment now.
I mean, definitely, those are like towards the very end of their life. Like also personally, I've been in the position where my tires actually got punctured in that same percentage, even less than that. So yeah, like in this game, sort of, so far we don't see a puncture. I don't know why, but probably he's not entered into a gravel trap or a hard curve that could like deflate his tires. But so far he's actually not even stopping right now. He's just going for it still. Even I guess it doesn't matter if it's 100% or not at this point.
Indeed, maybe he's checking out his tire life and to really understand how far he can push these hards. Because for those in the middle of the midfield, we talked about how this might be the season Freeman really breaks his shackles and becomes the number 1 driver and starts challenging for the title. Maybe he's looking at alternate strategies. Maybe he's looking at one stops to try and do something what Red Bull is trying to do with Max Verstappen right now. Maybe he feels like he's not up there toe to toe on pace, but he wants to outsmart and
And as we speak of that, he just spun out on turn two over there. I'm not surprised if he did that because by looking at his tires, he actually should pit right now, kind of cool down and kind of reevaluate on what he was doing and how much he had pushed on, and seeing the lap data, like how much he did. Like even looking at the lap data, only one slow lap he had. Other than that, everything was very much constant. Even with the tires he had, like it's a very surprising thing, and like that's what shows like how much he has been, how much experienced he is in this particular thing.
absolutely. Keep in mind that he holds P7 right now, and that P7 he probably clocked that time while doing a race simulation on hards. Whereas the likes of Rajdeep, Tanish, and Marinello have put in those lap times on lower fuel loads and on softer tires. So very promising signs, in my opinion, if you think about Freeman right now.
Yes, definitely. He's showing that why he was the constructor championship at one point. Like he knows like what to test in the race situation and qualifying situation, and he knows when to like for a teammate. He's like, I would say, an ideal teammate to have. He knows when to defend with someone. Like when he knows his teammate would be in an advantage of that end. And yes, he has like helped so many drivers get their drivers championship and their constructor championship. So I'm not surprised that he's doing so well right now.
Talking about teammates, Real SD and Nomo Pro Player really close. It's almost like an orange McLaren symphony as they go through those final corners in Sector 3. I'm not exactly sure what they're trying to do, staying so close to each other over there. Maybe they're trying to give each other a toe and see where they need to start off to get a toe in qualifying, which matters a lot, Slipstream, and they come really close over there.
They're having their own battle right here. I guess that's what they're trying to test, like how much battle they can do right now. And I guess since Nomo Propi is kind of new since the 2019 game, towards the later end of the game when 2020 was going to launch, he's kind of not like in last season has not got quite like a grasp of how race situation works. So I guess he's trying to get that into practice. And Real SD, obviously known for his consistency and the experience he had for so long, I guess he's trying to teach him like how to get on with overtaking someone, defending someone,
Indeed.
how to get along with someone's dirty air and stuff.
Yeah, to add to that, I also saw Nomo Trophy use the overtake button because his ERS was depleting, whereas Real SD's ERS is at 100%. So very interesting that they're not only trying out strategies, tires and tire wear, they're also helping each other learn the craft of overtaking. They're trying to get into nuances with the overtaking in this game because 4 laps old, 7 laps old tires, so that's when you'd probably slot in behind another car and try to push and overtake. So very interesting from the McLaren
Like
team.
definitely, it looks like other teams should look at that and see like they are not joking, or they actually mean this sort of business over here. Oh, and they hit each other over here. Like I don't think so. That was part of the plan, but SD just I guess yeah, it was Novo Profi who got spun out. SD tried to go for the overtake, tried to teach him, and I guess he was in the wrong end of that practice.
At least I'm still not happy with the contact model. The game is still running. I think like these cars, irrespective of the speed, are heavier than how this game projects them to be. But hopefully the new update patches helps us with that because a slight nudge does not throw a car into a spin. But all of these drivers will have to learn, live and adapt with because at the end of the day, when they're racing across 50%, they are going to be in a lot of battles.
Yes, I mean, speaking of the car contact in this game, like it has actually quite changed from the previous game, not like improved so much, but like previous game, if you used to hit someone on the side pod of the car, usually you were the one to spin out. But in this case, it's now kind of been in both ends. Both the drivers kind of spin out at that point. But also in this game, like the contact model, actually the ghosting of this game, which like in between, like they made it off for the back markers, which I think is kind of not good for it because it doesn't give a real racing kind of experience. But the whole ghosting actually has quite improved a lot. Like for example, if you saw SD when he like spun out, SD or Propi, I'm forgetting that. Whoever spun out, the moment they spun out, that car ghosted right in front. So that is kind of like is showing like how much the game has actually evolved. and actually doing quite better as well. So the
Which is
whole
a
ghosting aspect has also changed in this game.
Indeed, which is a good thing for all the drivers, especially the midfield drivers, because I've seen numerous times where the pack, two drivers are battling up front, one of them spins and everyone behind them gets punished with wing damage. So that's a good thing this game brings.
Yeah, so I guess now now Manolo, if he starts from the wick, doesn't have to worry about the ghosting aspect of it, because he has faced that a lot as of what I saw. Yeah, but this game in all general has quite been good. Like even the drivers in real life drivers also like kind of love it at this point. So I'm not
It's
surprised like this game is doing quite well right now. Like many people actually starting to playing this game with no experience in 2019.
Yeah. So, talking about Freeman, he's finally put those hearts out of their misery. He is now on a fresh set of mediums. So, it'll be interesting to see if he carries the same. No, he's running another full race starting simulation with the amount of fuel you have at the start of the race to check out how long these mediums will last. So, that's a lot of data Freeman over there is gathering. He's doing a lot of race start simulations.
I mean, Freeman, Freeman is kind of doing the Merc strategy, I would say, even though he's in a Ferrari right now.
I don't think he'll be too worried about being 2 seconds off pace right now because he seems to be running a whole different strategy. I mean, a whole different simulation right now.
And speaking of that, his teammate is also quite doing well. Not so Masoom, who has clocked 118.6 and has done 11 laps on those mediums. So I would say he's quite got some good data with that stint.
Indeed. So maybe this year, at least on the game, Ferrari is not a midfield team. And I think they will be challenging up there for the race wins.
I mean, yeah, the whole constructors battle is actually gonna be more close. I would say more closer than the drivers' championship, but I would want to see both in the same place, like the drivers and the constructor championship just going ham to each other.
Talking about drivers, couple, are you here with us?
Yep, what's up?
Hello, couple. So you're still running on the track, I assume. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, so how are you feeling this preseason testing? How do you think it's been different from 2019? And give us more insights as to what you're doing right now.
Played 2019, so this is a breath of fresh air for me.
Oh, that's interesting. We see a car run off over there. So a lot of cars are spinning around, losing their rears. So do you think that's something to do with the game, or do you think that's something to do with the driver's setups?
This is the ideal time to be pushing, so it's better to know your limits right now than on race day. So people are just pushing out there and see what they can get away with and what they can't get away with.
So you're running on hards, you put in 11 laps. So are you doing a full race simulation where you started off with 50% fuel load?
I don't know what I'm doing, dude. I'm just driving around.
Okay,
So there we have Apple.
I would actually ask one more last question to him, and this is like, what is your like realistic approach to the season? Like, where do you think you'll end up towards the end of it?
I would like to be in the points every race, at least on the tracks I'm strong at. But then again, there's some really fast boys out there, so I'm gonna hold my judgment for later because I'm still getting better. So all to play for me, I guess.
I guess you're trying to do the real life Red Bull, just trying to gain mid-season. Yeah, that's a very realistic approach, I would say.
Thank you so much for joining us and all the best, couple.
Come, have oxygen spinning out.
Sorry?
Spinning out in sector 3.
We unfortunately couldn't catch that, but yeah, we can see that on our mini map. A lot of drivers are spinning out surprisingly. Maybe they've been trying different strategies, trying to push the limit on the aero on their car to make sure they have that one lap speed as well. Now a lot of races, a lot of drivers are running on fresh set of mediums Ninja. So we also have Noto Masoom, who I think is doing a quali sim right now. He's out on fresh softs.
I mean, I'm not surprised because Masoom is known to be like the one in like very quick in one lapper so far of what I see from the time trials. So in one lap he's pretty quick, I would say, and so far he's doing well as well. But I just want to see where he now puts his time in those soft tires.
We now have a Racing Point driver, Black Sheep. Are you here with us? Can you hear us?
Oh, I am. I'm sorry. My apologies. I volunteered myself to join you guys.
Oh no, it's all
I
right.
hope
If
it's
you're
not.
in the pit,
I hope it's all right.
oh, absolutely, we love to have interviews with the drivers. I think you're in the pits, so safe to ask you questions.
Of course, yeah. Go ahead.
So, your P5.
Second, guys, I'm stuck on track right now. I can't move. I'm in this perfect patch of road where I can't move.
What do you
It's
mean you
all
can't
right.
move?
I can't move.
Reverse or engage gear?
Either way,
I
I'm
think
just
you have
turning
been
the
too
wheels.
much I think you have been too much off the game so far. So try get grip of it quickly. So yeah, as you continue with the question for Bakshi.
Yeah. So your P5 on the timing charts right now. How do you feel about this season?
I don't know, man. I don't know if everyone's literally actually putting in what their times are meant to be or not. I don't know.
What
And
have you been doing? Have you been sandbagging or have you been absolutely pushing the car?
no, so I've absolutely been driving the way I would during a race. In terms of strategy, tires, amount of fuel, everything. So, yeah.
So
I don't know. My
I
thinking
mean,
is this: the race is going to be 33 laps, right? So I
Yeah.
think it's going to be better to do. If I can get away with a hard start, then I'd do that. Stay out until lap 19, 19 laps on the hards, and then run about 14 on the mediums. I think should be okay, and that's exactly what I've been trying.
I think we did have a driver. I think Freeman did try running a lot of laps on hards. You might want to share data with him if that's how you guys want to roll. But so now you're running the mediums, so you're not worried about your time, I believe, right now, because I think the 117 was set on a quali simulation.
Yeah, so I'm doing sort of early 18s right now, which I think should be okay. You mentioned about Freeman there, but I think in the team VC, my teammate Tanish and I have had a pretty good discussion, and we were both amused by the number of drivers who took their hard tires past 20 laps.
Indeed.
And pretty much everybody in the top 10, they went to about 24, 25 laps on the hards. And that can only indicate to us that people are thinking of, a softs to hards or a hards to softs, which I'm not sure if that can work out, to be honest. I don't know. That's what we were discussing, just to let you in on the team conversation.
So Tanish is P2 right now. He's set a 117.6. So he's new to tier 1. So is he under your wing, or do you guys have driver rankings, or what is it like in the Racing Point garage?
Right now, there's no rankings. In fact, all we've been talking about is Tanish's experience at the Ferrari World, and I've been asking him to sing some songs to keep me entertained.
I mean, that's quite entertaining, to be honest.
So yeah, that's what we're talking about.
I mean,
so
if
I
that
think
helps in the season, then yeah, go for it.
yeah, I think Tanish is what he's experimenting with. Again, just to let you in on the difference between what I'm doing and what he's doing, is that he's got a different driving style where he really underfuels the car. And he's been trying to see how that affects tire wear. So that's what he's playing around with right now.
So,
Whilst I'm doing the full-on race run.
like, what's your realistic approach on the season? Like, where do you think you will end up in this season?
I can't really say, man. As diplomatic a response that would be, and as akin to what a real-life racing driver's response would be, we don't know where we are. I think that's true.
Yeah,
I mean, you
that's
can
a fair
see
point.
Oxygen has just put in, just gone into P7. I'm not really sure what people are doing now. I've been pushed down to P9, so yeah, I'm not really sure what to make of it.
Exactly. The drivers have now been very close to each other, so it's like now very hard to say. Like, because some are doing quali runs, some are doing like complete race, race stints. And yeah, it's very difficult to say right now who's gonna take the leading edge in the Australian Grand Prix.
You do say that it's difficult to say, but you guys know and see more than anybody else, right? You can
Yeah,
see who's
obviously,
doing the quali runs.
It's called sandbagging in our version.
Okay, so tell me who's doing actual runs and who's sandbagging and who's doing quali
I
runs.
think we are like refrained from sharing that information to the drivers,
And
especially who are competing against each other.
Wow. Okay.
I would
We-
say,
we-
in real life, if you would expect a commentator to give the driver like in
Of course
secret,
you would.
like
That's what they try to
like,
do. They poke
like
them,
Martin
right?
Brundle will call Hamilton, then be like, "Hey, this is what he's doing, bro. Like, check on that, bro."
Of course they do that, don't they? They
I
they
mean,
interview,
I mean,
they
I'm not
interview team managers
I mean, I don't
and
know
they
if
tell
that actually happens, but
I'm
they interview team
afraid,
managers and they ask them
unfortunately, yeah.
they interview
But-
team managers and they ask them, why are you doing race runs when your rivals are doing quali runs? Are you prepared for it or not?
yes, we are doing the same thing. You can't question back us, you know that, right?
Wow. Okay.
I mean, if
but
we
in-
question the
in
drivers,
short-
I wouldn't question the interviews.
I think, in short, I think this is something you would have gathered as well. I think 118 is around all those cars which did their laps on race pace, and I think 117 is all the quali runs. Now we are seeing quite a few quali runs. I can confirm 4 teams out there on the softs. I think they might have started with the quali runs, but I think there are a few players on softs who are trying to check the extent of soft. But I think that's all we are going to be willing to share with you before we have people complain to the stewards about the commentators.
We are the stewards. Don't worry
Yeah,
about it, bro.
exactly. Yes. For those of you who don't have any clue, Black Sheep and Couple both are stewards for Tier 1. Or Tier
And-
Tier 2 actually.
and- Yeah, exactly.
And Tier 2, yeah.
Wait, can someone tell me who's done the most laps so far?
It's a Ferrari driver.
Nice.
Hey, man.
Wow.
Freeman.
you had to say that, didn't you?
I mean, he already knew Freeman
Yeah,
pushes
it's fair
tires
enough. You
past
guys can
20.
actually see the live stream back, obviously.
Yeah.
Oh, and we have one more person in the commentary room. Kapilesh, who's also not Kapilesh, sorry. Oh yeah, Kalpesh actually. Kalpesh Chaudhary.
Yeah, you can
He's
put
the admin
it
of
that
this
way as
community.
well.
So,
That's
so
very
now we
interesting
have the
because
Red Bull
commentators. I was
drivers.
just about to ask you about Kapil something, but now he's here, so I can ask him directly. Kapil, how many times have you went off the track so far?
I would say probably 4 times. And probably
Some
almost a 5th
shade-
now.
Some shade being thrown over there.
What about you, Casey?
Sorry, what?
How many times have you spun out so far?
I think twice. Kapil recommended me a setup change and it did not work out so well, so I spun twice with that setup.
Kapil, you should go get back to drawing board. Come on.
This team, Red Bull team, it's like a complete rebuild this season again.
It's exactly the same as last season.
The team is the same, the teammates are the same, but the skill is again under construction, I'd say.
So, like, isn't
I've-
that how Red Bull works usually in real life?
Oh yeah, I guess. Well, let's hope this goes well this season.
Yeah, well, as we can see, I think a lot of people are starting to do quali runs now. A lot of people are coming out on softs now.
I think you three should also get back going.
Well, I don't
mean,
think
you
I'll be
guys-
I'll be
you
doing
guys can- You guys can stay over here if you want to, obviously. But,
Nah, I think I'll start my quali runs as well.
I mean, you have 13 minutes to go, so
Yep, it's
get
about
yourself
time.
back up.
Alright, I'll see ya guys.
A lot of banter out there on the paddock, which is always nice to see. And
Yes.
it's interesting to see how that plays out over the course of the season once battles start getting really intense.
Yeah, I just hope we don't get memes on us.
I mean, like, probably
mean,
won't be too bad. I mean, like, if people are making memes on Toto, I can live with it.
But not on yourself.
I mean, depends
Yeah,
on
I'm
the
really
meme.
surprised you guys said that a lot of people are going out on softs. I think that's not really a realistic strategy. I think people are just trying to see what the pace differential is. So I'm going to give it a go as well. Do a quali run on the soft, see how different that is. But for the benefit of the viewers, I guess, ideal strategy I think is mediums to hards. Or if you can get through quali on hards, then if you're in the top 10 on hards, then yeah, fair enough, go for hards to mediums.
Yes, I guess that has been stated before that the soft is very a questionable thing to use in the race situation.
Yeah, correct. I think the only person who can get away with that is Marinetto.
I mean, you would say that, but this time I don't think so. He's gonna get away that easily, I would say.
You don't think he's sandbagging?
Do you feel he's sandbagging?
Yeah, exactly. That's not us.
No, I don't feel he is, but I feel that
He has
his
not posted
race
boundaries.
pace will be different, slightly different. I think what he will do is qualify on the softs P1 in the first 10 laps, build up an advantage of 15 seconds, and then come back out on the hards in free air and just manage the race from there without any fight.
So when you look at races, do you take the chances of a safety car into equation, or do you just feel like, given this is tier 1, given that these drivers have a lot of hours and they are pretty clean, that you don't really take the safety car into consideration?
I think the only tracks I may somewhat take that into considerations are street circuits.
Australia is technically a street circuit, but I think fair to say that we don't see a lot of incidents in Australia.
True. You're right.
I mean, we don't see it a lot, but we see in a one specific corner, which is turn 11 and 12, the fast left-hander handles. If you go a bit wide, you're done with this.
I think what I'm trying to say is that it's based on how much risk you want to take. I mean, you can gamble on that, do a ridiculous strategy, and hope that the safety car will be out in, the first or the second stint whenever you want it. But then if that doesn't happen, then you're completely caught off guard.
So as we speak of street circuits, last season we didn't have Monaco, but this season we do. So what do you expect in this game, how that track is gonna go?
I think we all know.
I mean, yeah, like previous instances whenever I've seen a league race in Monaco, not quite ended the way it should have. In real life, at least many people finish. In league races, it's quite the very opposite, I would say. Not that it's something to do with clean racing, it's just very hard to keep a good consistency around Circuit and Monaco. Especially you can't even overtake in that track.
Plus, we have a lot of dirty air in this game, so that comes into account too.
True.
Yeah. So Black Sheep, yeah, how do you think this game? Like, how do you feel about this game?
Just in general, I think I'm quite happy with it. I know that a lot of people in the community have been complaining about it, but I think that's down to the fact that they've not been able to sort of just get used to it, or what the differences are, where track limits are different, and so on. But it's like any game; you get used to it, and then you try to do as best as possible. But talking about dirty air, I think that's one aspect that I really like about this game. It's a lot more realistic in the sense that following a car and making a move done and getting past somebody is that much more challenging. And Ninja, you know that better than anybody else. When we had that race in China,
We had our own testing. I would say.
Exactly. I mean, a full 50% race where I was half a second behind you and not able to get past is quite telling of how challenging that is. And I think that's quite nice because it makes it all the more rewarding for the driver to make sure that they race cleanly, they're dedicated, every apex is hit correctly, everything is done right. It requires a lot more attention.
Yes,
than the previous game.
exactly, because a lot of attention to detail at it, as we would have been in 2019.
Coming back to the timing charts, Tanish Break is the first driver to break the 117 mark, and he clocks in a 116.746 on his quali sim. RB Ferrello did have a good lap, but then he runs wide and he had a moment over there in sector 1. Now we see almost more than half our grid. We see almost 2/3 of our grid out there doing quali runs. Freeman, we saw you come out for a lap on the softs, but then you got it invalidated and you went right back in. Did you not have fuel, or did you just think it wasn't worth your time?
I'm speaking about Freeman and a couple.
I mean, I'm sorry,
Freeman, is
Black
he here?
Sheep. I mean, Black Sheep. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
I was just looking at him. Yeah, I mean, Black
Oh
Sheep.
no, it was invalidated probably because I'm embroiled in a deep conversation with you guys.
Talking about invalidations, one last question. This game is very, very strict on corner cutting. So, how do you think drivers are taking that into account? Do you have to change something with the way you approach corners as compared to 2019, or do you think it's still the same as far as you're concerned?
No, I think it's quite different. So as I said earlier, people need to get used to this game.
And as
Yeah.
we see now on the track is actually quite evolving. The weather has quite changed. I'm not sure if it's actually going to rain again, but I hope it does. So we can at least see what they can do in rain. Because I guess we didn't see much on what they can do in rain, but yeah.
Yeah, we are on board with No More Pro Player who is running. It looks like he ran a stint on softs. He put in 8 laps and now he's going back into the pit. Gets a good time of 117. Or he is P4 on the timing chart. He did get those on softs and he pushed those to 8 laps. So interesting from him. He did not do it with a lot of fuel, as we can see over there with our data. He has 4 laps worth of fuel left, so he probably started off with around 16 laps of fuel, give or take, based on how much fuel he used over the course of those 8 laps.
I mean,
So-
usually if you want to try a race setup in soft tires, like if you are in a race and the very first tire you choose to run in soft tires, you would test in a way that you have to fuel your car to the max as it would have been in the race situation. But he has chosen a more opposite approach to it.
Maybe, we never know, maybe he's looking at a hard soft strategy, which I don't think I think he's just trying to roll the dice around and try to understand all the tires, try to see how much grip he loses over the course of softs. But one team which is doing pretty well right now is the Mercedes team on the game as well. They do have the 3rd and 5th fastest times right now. Both of them are in the 117s, about 5/10 of each other. RB Ferrello leading Dreyfus right now. So promising times for the Mercedes, and the McLarens, who were down towards the start of the session, are now pushing as well. They right now have the 4th quickest and 6th quickest times out there.
Yes, now as we see, Black Sheep is now on his lap, I would say. I
No, I've
think.
finished.
Oh yeah, you have finished right now, I would say. So how do you think? How does those tires felt like in the first lap?
The softs are obviously much quicker. I mean, I was able to go 2 seconds quicker than my medium time. But again, this is a quali run. My medium stint was, with a good 16, 17 laps worth of fuel. But yeah, good to see. Racing Points leading the way.
Yes, and that's what people hoped in the real life, but it's looking quite questionable at this point.
Yeah, it's not really realistic because I think I've already revealed that we're not intending to use the softs at all. But it's
Yes,
good to see where we are.
So for those of you who are not haven't watched the qualifying in real life of the 70th anniversary, Hamilton hasn't got the pole this time. It's Bottas, followed by Hamilton, and Hülkenberg, out of nowhere, grabs P3 in the qualifying sheets, and now is going to start in the second row just behind the Mercedes. It's quite an impressive thing.
I think it's safe to say that all of the Formula One community is cheering for Hülkenberg to get his first podium finish this race.
Yes, definitely. I guess even Verstappen fans, Hamilton fans will root for Hülkenberg more than their own drivers.
Absolutely, and today's quali did no favors for Stroll as pressure builds on him.
And now seeing we have just 3 minutes left, now I guess everyone is just jumping into the soft tires, just trying to get the quickest lap possible, because in qualifying situation that's usually what's going to happen. You have few minutes left, try to bank a lap quicker to your personal best and just see how much further you can go.
For those who are tuning in for the first time, we do not have a full qualifying. We have a short qualifying, so therefore it's not like you can do your Q2 on mediums and then put in your fastest time in Q1 on softs. Over here you run one session which is 18 minutes long, and whatever tires you set your fastest time in that one session, you start on those tires, at least the top 10, and then from 10th to 20th they can select fresh set of tires and whatever strategy they wish.
Yes, and right now you can see like it's pretty much you can say it's looking like a qualifying session right now. So far the racing points are like quite on top, leading the pack, and following them is Rajdeep Paul RB, and so far interestingly Manelo is right now on his out lap, like still looking to set up personal best.
This is his first lap out on the soft, so that will be interesting. But talking to Black Sheep, I think it's safe to assume that almost like none of these drivers realistically want to be starting on these softs, and I don't think even he feels that the advantage to get starting at the front of the pack is going to pay off for those. As we see, Not So Masoom slowed down on the side of the track, give way to drivers as he tries to get on with his lap.
I mean, right now on the map, I see Manila is right now on the second sector going towards the chicane, which is right behind the DRS back straight. And there he is, like, quite going for it, pushing the limit right behind the Williams.
Best sector 1, but as of now, it doesn't look like he's going to be breaking the fastest lap record. He does set a purple sector 2, I believe. So he's still a tenth of Tanish's lap pace. Will be interesting to see.
He's getting impeded by the Williams, who's still on the hard tires, and that he backed off just now. And now, as he goes around the final corner, tries to go for a lap, and he actually gets P2 even after so much impeding in the way. I would say dirty and more like not the actual impeding, but yeah, still that he managed to do a 1:16.5.
He must be mighty happy with that, even though he must have been, if he had a team, he must have been hot on the ears of his teammate over there. But really good lap, 1:16.5 leading the way. But very promising with Tanish to show that he has the pace. Mara has an incident over there, but very promising by Tanish. First practice session in Tier 1, and to show them what he is made of. That must give him a lot of confidence heading into race week.
Will we see two Ferrari diehard fans competing with each other?
It'll be very interesting. At least one place where Ferrari fans or Ferrari as such can be competitive. But now we come close to the session. I think few drivers are still out there. I think RB Fidello had his lap invalidated, and I think it's the same with no more pro player. As we round up the pack, oxygen goes wide to give way for drivers finishing the lap.
When he comes between Ferrari, the ghosting, see, as the ghosting, like, just on time, just helped
Indeed.
Ferrari, like, not scared of the diseases out of it.
Indeed. Very promising by Prakhar Vats as well. He sets P3, a 1:16. So we have 4 drivers.
And Babaji actually also goes for a lap and only like 2/10 out on his teammates' quick lap. Like Babaji is actually showing his real true pace right here.
Absolutely. I mean, if we were to go on, and we have Maranello giving some entertainment. He is doing donuts on the main straight.
I mean, is he practicing for the end of the season? I mean, he can. He's like
probably
he has a huge chance of it. But
I have no comments. I don't want to side or unside with any driver, but some fresh of breath air might be fun as we look at the final timesheet over there. All these drivers really bunched up. You can see that from 1st to 14, they're all within a second and a half of each other, which is very promising. We do not know the level of ERS and the level of fuel these guys ran. So very, very promising stats over here as we come to an end of our preseason practice testing.
yes, now we are over with the Tier 1 preseason testing, but tomorrow we have the Tier 2 preseason testing right at the same track, and there are many new drivers who are actually going to compete with the drivers who want some like redemption on where to score some points and even win the championship for the very first time. So if you want to look forward to it tomorrow 8 p.m. right at the same time after the real life British Grand Prix, you will see that preseason testing of for Tier 2. And as of now, we are done for the Tier 1. Next week is going to be Australian GP for Tier 1. So tune in for that, and we'll see you guys